All right, joining us today for a record fourth time here on the Green with the MV podcast. You know her. She is the Emmy award-winning host of multiple Celtics Patriots coverage for NBC Sports Boston. She is the curator of vibes and now a proud mama and Super Bowl wifey. Y'all know who I'm talking about. It's Amina Smith. What's up, Amina?
Hey, what's up? I love this intro. Oh my God. Fourth time I've been on the pod now. Like I really have
I
I've
know.
lost count at this point because now I'm just like, all right, yeah, cool. I'll hop on. Like, whatever. It's like y'all
You're
are cool
always
people.
down, and it's so between Greg and I, it's always kind of a strain. Like, yo, we could hit up Amina, like because we just love having conversations. Like every time we have you on, I mean, you're the curator of vibes for a reason. It's a vibe,
Thank
it's an
you.
easy flow, it's a talk track. But I want to just check in with you. We have a ton of Celtics, and we'll even touch on a little bit of Patriots coverage.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we'll dabble in that, but we'll focus on more so the positives with this crazy Celtics week, and obviously the season coming up here, first preseason game. We'll have touched on that at the beginning of the podcast, but I just want to check in with you. You've had a lot going on since
Oh
the
yeah.
last time that you were on the show. I touched on it a little bit. A proud mama. You got your husband won a Super Bowl.
Hmm.
What's been the whirlwind of your off season been like? Give us a little glimpse inside.
Oh, it has been chaotic, but it's like it's all good chaos though too. Like I always tell people that it's like whenever I try to describe what my son his due date being on Super Bowl Sunday, and then my husband trying to make it for the birth, and then me in the middle of the playoffs. Like whenever I try to describe it to people, I'm like it's so chaotic, but it's also like good chaos that has happened over the last several months. But my baby boy, he's turned 8 months just yesterday, and I can't believe like
Wow.
8 months, like oh my God, when I tell you it went by so fast, like it's absolutely insane. But yeah, like that was a wild ride back in February. Like I said, my son was due Super Bowl Sunday, and he actually came a week before, exactly a week before Super Bowl Sunday. My husband was on his way to Arizona, and I called him at like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I think I'm in labor. He's like, what do you mean you think? What do you mean?
This is a you are or you are not
Right. He was like,
situation.
what do you mean you think you're in labor? He was like, we're about to get on the plane to go down to Arizona. Like, I need to know right now if you're in labor. And so luckily I had my doula with me. So she was a part of like my pregnancy team. And she ended up calling my husband, and she was like, you need to get here like right now. Because like the flights between Kansas City and Boston, they're only like one in the morning and one in the evening. So if you don't catch that morning one, then you gonna miss the birth. You gonna end up coming that night. So luckily he was able to catch the flight. Like it was super crazy. Got to the counter, and he was like explaining the situation because the flight was leaving in like 30 minutes. And then of course sometimes you get to the counter. You guys have seen it in the airport. People were like having a meltdown
Hmm.
and like trying to get on the plane, and then like the person at the desk is just like, look, yeah, all right, well, you're late, so you can't get on this flight. But luckily he ran into somebody who was like an actual like good human being, and they let him on the flight. He walked into the birthing center literally the same time that they were wheeling me, and like it was like the perfect moment. But yeah, a lot of organized chaos, but a lot of great things happening over the last couple of months.
That's amazing. So where did you actually watch the Super Bowl from?
I watched the Super Bowl from my living room. And I don't know if you guys like people may be listening. I don't know if you guys like follow me on social media on Instagram, but leading up to the Super Bowl, because I knew that like my due date was Super Bowl Sunday, I was really trying to get down there. And my husband was absolutely not having it whatsoever. Like I came into my doctor's appointments and I was just like, so like what if I asked you guys to come with me? Like would you let me go? And they were like, absolutely not. Like we are not letting you go down to the Super Bowl. Like the flight is way too long. Like it's too risky. So I ended up having to watch it from my couch. But we did FaceTime when they won, and I saw all the confetti, all the chaos happening. I had major FOMO. I'm not gonna lie, guys. Like I mean, the one year that my husband goes to the Super Bowl, I'm pregnant and I had the baby and I can't go. So like everybody's calling me. Mom is there. My mother-in-law is there. My sister-in-law is there. Obviously my husband is there. Everybody's FaceTiming me. I'm like, I'm happy, but I'm a little sad because I got FOMO. But I got this cute little baby, in the whole process.
So at the end of the day, you were a winner in multiple ways,
Oh
obviously,
yeah,
with that
in
result.
multiple ways, multiple ways.
So we got to ask you about this. So obviously, we're talking about your husband winning the Super Bowl last year with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's still on their practice roster right now. Have you had a chance to catch a Chiefs game in person this season? I know obviously you're busy with a lot of Pats
Oof.
coverage, but sometimes it lines up. And there's a certain story that's kind of brewing around Kansas City that I think we'd be interested in. Perhaps our listeners might be interested to get your thoughts on as well.
Well, if I'm thinking of the said story that you're thinking of, which is Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, I haven't been able to go to a game so far this year. However, of course, I have inquired a lot about this whole Travis Kelce and Taylor
Give us the
Swift
tea,
thing.
Amina. What do you know?
Like,
Let's
I don't
get
have
it out.
any hot tea
Nobody
for y'all.
listens to this podcast. It's just the three of us. Just let us know.
I don't have any hot tea for y'all, but I had like the same questions when I saw like all the tweets and I saw all the Instagram posts. I was like, what's going on? I was like, is this for real? At first I thought it was a joke, to be honest. To be completely honest, I was like, this has to be like some sort of joke or whatever. But apparently it's a real thing. I mean, people love it. Swifties love it. But I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I am a little tired of seeing Taylor Swift in the box.
Well, this is something for both of y'all.
It's because they spend the whole game talking about it. So that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the thing, because I don't get it. I just don't get it. Like that's the the top of the line for me is I just don't understand it. Like when you look at all of these stats that have come out of how many more eyeballs are watching, how many more women specifically are watching, and to your point, Amina, I'm like, they're really tuning in to see a quick camera shot of her sitting in a suite. She's not talking. She's not singing. She's not doing anything. And like I knew Taylor Swift was popular, but I don't think I ever fully grasped that it had this type of juice. So I don't know if y'all knew that she had this type of juice, but I certainly didn't.
I didn't. I really didn't. Like it's a bigger deal that she's at the game than like if Obama was at the game. They might like show Obama at the game like one time, maybe twice. They're cutting to her all the time.
I saw her was 17 times last game.
17. Oh my gosh. And you know what? I was talking to a friend of mine the other day and I brought that up and I was like, how many, games have I seen like Beyonce and Jay-Z? And I remember I was at a game, I think it was like the Celtics were playing the Bulls in Chicago and Obama was actually at that game. We got one shot of Obama at the game. I watched a game with the Jets and the Chiefs and literally like they are talking about Taylor Swift the entire game, showing her the entire game. And I get it, like Blake Lively, I believe, was in the box as well, and also Hugh Jackman. So now you're bringing like all types of A-list celebrities that you never really see at NFL games. But I will say though, after like the first 2 weeks, I was just like, all right, let's do like one shot, maybe two, and then like move on and talk about the game. Because like spending the whole week in the game talking about it, it's a little nauseating. I'm not gonna lie.
Does she have like an album coming out or something? Like there's got to be.
Well, she just finished her tour, so she had the Eras tour. So like that's why like that was already like that momentum from the tour, and then also like the Travis Kelce news came out. But I think she was like performing in Kansas City was a story, and then he was trying to go to the tour, trying to get like her number, and then he gave her like a friendship bracelet. There was like a whole situation.
Hey, Amina, you seem to know a lot about this.
I'm just saying, I'm just all ears, I'm all ears when it comes to the situation. But yeah, I mean, she was on the Eras tour. That was huge. Like I know people who went 2 and 3 times. Mm-hmm. So like I knew the Swifties like fan base was like absolutely crazy and huge. However, I didn't know that they were going to take over the NFL season like this.
Right? Definitely not on the bingo card for what was going to happen in this season's script. And, I think it's funny, right? I bet your husband, as well as like everyone else in that locker room, has their significant others, their family members who are texting them. They're like, y'all know we're like 3-1 right now. Like we're kind of killing it again, trying to repeat here. Like this is the question that you want to ask. But I can't imagine how many of them are getting pestered with trying to get that behind the scenes description.
Oh, I'm sure literally every single person is trying to figure out what's happening behind the scenes. Like, is this real? Is it not real? Like, what's the situation happening? And then I believe I was listening to Travis Kelce and his brother's podcast, and they were talking about how Andy Reid was like trying to take credit for introducing Taylor Swift and Travis. It's honestly, it's
what world are we in?
It is really snowballed into its own thing. Like it's taking a life of its own right now.
Was it? I didn't look into it at all because I like truly don't really care about Taylor Swift. But like,
don't let the Swifties hear you. Don't let the Swifties hear you.
My fiance, by the way, Amina, I got engaged this summer, so my now fiance. Thank you. She's a huge Swiftie. So she never listens to the pod anyway, so I think I'm okay. But did Bill Belichick actually comment on it, or was that like an Onion article?
Like Bill Belichick has gone out of his way to like commend Taylor Swift. I believe he was actually at the Eras tour at Gillette Stadium when she
Okay.
performed in the rain. Like, it was a huge deal. Honestly, I did not know. Like, I knew that Taylor Swift had like a really strong fan base.
Mhm.
But like, when do you ever expect Bill Belichick to talk about Taylor Swift?
Right.
Like, let's be honest. Like, he basically called her a badass because she was like performing in the rain. He's like, yeah, she's pretty hardcore. So like, that's the description that you have of Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
because
Belichick
like,
scouting her for the special teams.
right, that's a
got a gunner
that you
spot.
have
Like,
on
she's getting in there. She's like hard nosed, tough. We could use her.
Right, exactly. Like, that was a shocker. I mean, like, to hear Bill Belichick not only talk about Taylor Swift, but then also, the situation between her and Travis Kelce. I'm like, this is like peak pop culture meeting sports, like the NFL. Like, this is like everything culminating, all my worlds just meeting in the middle right now, and I just don't even know how to react to it.
Yeah, real quick, while we're on football, let's address this. Greg and I were debating it. We're going to talk to you a little bit about the Patriots here, and I feel like we've uttered Belichick's name. So if we're going to do it, let's do it now, and then we can get to the good stuff. But with this Patriots season, I know obviously you do a ton of amazing work for the Patriots coverage, Celtics coverage that you do. This Patriots season, I mean, we're only 4 games in. It's taxing. It's trying. I'm neither Greg or I are very big Mac Jones believers, and kind of the silver lining to this season was discovering Christian Gonzalez, and of course Matthew Judon's been great. Both of them now out indefinitely, likely both for the entire season. And so, Amina, I'm asking you, and just speak to Greg and I. Give us what's the reason that we should still be watching this team here for the rest of the season going forward, other than praying that we get Caleb Williams. Like, that's how bad my mentality is with that team right now.
That's a good question. If you guys should still be watching, because I would say at this point, like, if you're not like a super dedicated Patriots fan, like, what's the product that you're watching, to be honest? Like, I mean, we knew coming into this year that the team wasn't going to be that good. I had them winning, 8 or 9 games, which is like, a solid season. They went 8-9 last season. So I figured, okay, they win 9 games this year. It's a little bit of a step forward. But the issues that they have on the offensive line, the health, that's been a huge problem. Them not adding any really, top tier wide receivers, passing on DeAndre Hopkins, even though he's not doing like spectacular things down there in Tennessee. And then, of course, losing Matt Judon, who's the best player on your defense, then losing a young promising player in Christian Gonzalez, and then picking up JC Jackson just a week ago. It's like, whew, man, and like literally anything that could have gone wrong with this Patriots team has gone wrong. And I had them going 1-3 through the first 4 games. But honestly, I didn't think it was going to feel like this. Like, I thought it was going to be like, all right, 1-3, and then they'll be able to bounce back. They got the Saints coming up. The Saints are in like a middle of the pack team kind of as well. But the way that this Patriots team looks right now, like, I mean, they might be lucky if they win like 5-6 games. Like, I thought it was crazy. Like, the beginning of the season, we were doing our pregame show, and Michael Holly, who works with us on that show as well, he was not optimistic about this team, and he said they were going to win like 5 or 6 games. I was completely floored. I was like, no way! Like, they got Bill O'Brien, like they're going to be a little bit better. Mac Jones going to take a step forward because he's got an actual offensive coordinator. Child, do y'all see these games on Sunday?
Amina, I haven't watched football like since Brady left. You're at such a high after Tom Brady. It's like hard to tune in, just knowing you're not going to win any Super Bowls because there was always a chance with Brady. So I haven't really tuned in over the last couple of years. And this year I was like, you know what? I'm back. I'm going to watch every Patriots game. I'm going to like get back into it. And I've seen a few Mac Jones games before. I was never a huge fan. He looks awful this year. Christian Gonzalez was the one reason why I was like, oh, this is something that I can tune in every week to see like what this kid becomes. He dislocates his shoulder and tears his labrum. Judon's a beast off the edges and he tears his bicep or whatever happens to him. So like, I really don't know what the point is. I heard Ramondre Stevenson's supposed to be this amazing running back and he hasn't done shit. So like, what am I watching for? Like, is there any whisperings of something to pay attention to? Just give me anything. Honestly, I don't want to give up.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't want to give up either because, guys, we got 18 weeks in the season.
Yeah, you got a lot to go.
We're only headed into
this is the first quarter.
Right?
This is the first quarter. We still got 3 full quarters to play.
Do you get like do you get like ratings reports for your Pats coverage and stuff? Like, are you aware of how many people are actually watching?
We usually do. Yeah, we usually do, but we don't hold the game though. So like CBS would get like the ratings report for, the Patriots game, because they usually hold, like the local station, they usually host the game and they have that on their air. But I tell you right now, just like, going through social media and like even just people around Boston that like, they know that I do the coverage and they'll pull me aside and talk to me. People, they're very upset about this Patriots team. But that's because everybody's so used to, just like you said, Greg, like when Tom Brady was here, like everybody knew, okay, there was a chance. So even if it was a bad start or a bad game, like, you got the GOAT under center, like something's going to give. Like down the line, down the rest of the season, you're going to be in it. You're going to be in the playoffs. This is a Patriots team that hasn't been in the playoffs. This is a Patriots team that's likely not going to go to the playoffs. And then you look at the AFC East and how much that's changed. The Dolphins, they added Chase Claypool just today to their roster. They already have deep wide receivers out there as well. I mean, if the Jets weren't going through the turmoil that they are going through with the loss of Aaron Rodgers and, Zach Wilson, him being the type of quarterback that he is, and them trying to figure out if they want to develop him, if they want to stay with him or not, like the Patriots would be at the bottom of the barrel of the AFC East. And I mean, pretty much like they're fighting with the Jets at the bottom of the barrel, even though they beat the Jets like a couple weeks ago. Let's be honest, like it wasn't a great game. It's also the Jets. So, like you take a look at the division, the Patriots, they're really struggling right now. It's hard to find something that makes you want to watch the game, especially I thought that the running game, you mentioned Ramondre Stevenson. I'm a big Ramondre Stevenson fan. I thought this was going to be a huge year for him, which it still could be. Again, like we're only going into week 5, but you want to see more from him, and the addition of Ezekiel Elliott as well. Like I thought Ezekiel Elliott would probably have a bigger impact, but it also starts with the offensive line. If the offensive line is not blocking, they're not doing their job, they're not healthy, you can't really get that run game going.
Yeah. All right. Enough about the Patriots. We got to move
sorry.
on.
I know. I'm bringing the whole
we opened up this can of worms. That was on us. But let's take a quick break and then let's come back and talk about the Celtics team. All right, Amina. So it has been an absolutely insane start to the Celtics season. Day before media day, obviously the big news: Jrue Holiday gets traded to the Celtics. See you later, Lob Williams, who you helped us, elevate that nickname. We'll always appreciate that. We'll have to come up with a new one for Jrue Holiday when you come back here. Get that on the air. Say bye to him. Say bye to Malcolm Brogdon. Couple of picks. I know that news broke right before you were coming on the air. I think actually probably talking about the Patriots, but that news broke right before you came on air. And one of your first comments was that, this move for Jrue Holiday is that he's a needle mover, right? Mm-hmm. He moves the needle, especially for a team like this, trying to get over the hump. So before we get into the media day coverage and what insights you can give us behind the scenes, now that you've had a couple of days, maybe even seen some of the practices, what are your thoughts on Jrue Holiday as a Boston Celtic?
Honestly, I love the move of Jrue Holiday coming to Boston because he's won a championship. And I feel like, that's an X factor that a lot of people are overlooking as well. Like, of course, great. He's a great player, great offensive player, great two-way player. He's great on defense. He wants to help Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown be the best that they could be on the court as well. But I think that the X factor that Jrue Holiday has, and he talked about it in his introductory press conference as well, is the fact that he knows how hard it is to win a championship. And no one on that team has, won a championship. They haven't gotten over that hump yet. Jason Tatum is trying to lead the team to do that. Jaylen Brown as well. However, Jrue Holiday talked about the fact that it's hard. Like you really mentally, physically, spiritually, everything that you have has to go into winning that championship. And, them adding Sam Cassell as an assistant coach, that helps too, because obviously he's an NBA champion, I believe 3 times over. So you have that coaching perspective, but I think more importantly, having a player that has won it and in that locker room is super important, but then also somebody that you've battled against. Right. I think that's something that's interesting as well. And Jrue Holiday talked about that. He's like, this is a tough team. Like, I feel like they're right there. They're right on the edge. Like, this is a team that can go to the NBA finals and win a title. I think that Jrue Holiday is that type of player that moves the needle for this locker room and will do what he needs to do, whatever the Celtics need him to do in order to get them there.
What's interesting with Jrue coming over to Boston and like the institutional knowledge that he's going to be bringing from Milwaukee, and just like the way that maybe they're scouting a Jason Tatum or they're scouting a Jaylen Brown. There's been a lot of discourse about Jaylen Brown and like the left hand. Does he have one? Does he not? And like the video that came, whoever posted that on Celtics social with Jaylen Brown dribbling on the sideline. I was like, what
we might need to do a whip.
I saw it.
That was like almost as bad as the Draymond leak when he punched Jordan Poole. Like, it's like, why is that video getting out? Why is that video getting out? But I'm wondering, like, will Jrue Holiday's institutional knowledge and be like, hey, Jalen, this is why people are able to force you to your left hand and force you into turnovers because you do this or you have these tendencies. So like all of that behind enemy lines knowledge he's bringing, I'm wondering how much that's actually going to help the Jays.
I think that'll help them a lot, to be honest. And Jrue talked about, going up against Jaylen Brown when he was playing for Milwaukee, but then also at their first practice, he said that he's one of the best guys that, he's gone up against, like just playing in the NBA. But also at that first practice, he was talking about how Jaylen Brown was able to, box him out, like basically body him. And he's like, that's weird to say, because I'm a guard, but, Jaylen Brown has a lot of talent. And I think that having that knowledge from the other side and playing him, for like against them when he was with the Milwaukee Bucks, I think that that's going to be super helpful for Jaylen Brown. And I mean, Jaylen is, just being around him, watching him at the games, listening to him at the podium. He's a guy who wants to learn how to be better day in and day out. And Jason Tatum takes the same mentality as well. I mean, even watching, Tatum over the summer practicing with Paul Pierce, and people might look at it and be like, oh yeah, it's just Paul Pierce that he's working out with. Like Paul doesn't play anymore or anything like that. But what I love about that is that you start to surround yourself with champions. So that means you start to think like a champion. You start to train like a champion. You start to look at details like a champion. And I think that's the difference that Jrue Holiday makes when you talk about his impact on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown moving forward.
So let me ask you this, because you have an opportunity to be obviously around for media day, around everyone that's doing the different coverage, and something that fans don't always think about. There's a lot of mixed emotions, especially with the timing, how this all lined up, the timeline of Holiday coming in, Rob Malcolm going out, and especially for a guy like Rob, who's been around for his whole career and very widely recognized as one of the more popular players on the team. So, as you're going through media day, Jrue's press conference, and then of course there was the gala, I never know which one's the right way to say that.
I always say gala.
Yeah, there's a gala last night. And so, I'm curious, what has been the energy with this team and, with the coverage that you've seen or any interaction that you may have had? Because it is a lot of mixed emotions going into this past week.
I'll tell you right now, the energy is high. Like this team really believes that they're going to win a title this year. And that's not just like players, that's people around the team, that's staff. Like it's like there's a different feeling coming into this year. And I think that, and that's not a knock on like Rob or like Grant Williams or Marcus Smart or anything like that. But I think it's, Brad Stevens setting the tone of being aggressive and going all in. Like they're going to be well into the luxury tax. It is what it is. But they see their championship window as being, I know Wick said like 6 years. I don't know, 6 is kind of a long window, but I think that they recognize that immediately, like what they have right now, this is great talent and they have to take the leap. They have to go all in. So everyone's mindset, like even at the gala last night, but then media day, like the tone was different, but you got to think about how different it was last year though. We were going through the whole Ime Udoka thing. And so there was like a dark cloud over media day. People were kind of tiptoeing on certain questions and they didn't know what to ask or what they couldn't know, like, what they could let the media know, what they can't let the media know. So this year is totally different because there's no distractions. Everybody's focused on basketball. You add Jrue Holiday. You also add Kristaps Porzingis as well. People forget about that because that happened earlier in the offseason. But I think that the Celtics, they've made all the right moves to help Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown lead this team to an NBA title.
How tall is Kristaps Porzingis?
He is huge. When I tell you head and shoulders over me, I literally was at media day, even the gala last night. I was getting mic'd up before I was doing the panel, and we were both back there by the audio section. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, like 7 foot is different. Like it's just like
I saw him standing next to Al Horford, and I was like, oh my god! Like I knew he was tall, but like he's like
he's
a
got
full
what,
head
5'6" inches on Al Horford, right?
Yeah, like I mean,
it's
like Kristaps Porzingis is a huge human being. Like it's crazy to see in person because you see guys on TV and you're like, oh, okay, you see the numbers. Oh, this person is 6'5", or this person is 7 feet, whatever. And then you see it in person. It's like, oh my God, these people are giants. Like
That's great.
That was my literal reaction. Was just like, what is happening right now. So
That's so funny. You were talking about energy. One of the things that I noticed, and that I'm sure you've noticed as well, is that Joe Mazzulla seems to have a completely different vibe about him this year. I don't know how much you actually have gotten to know Joe or interact with him since he became head coach, but what have you seen out of Joe so far this year that's different from last year?
I haven't gotten to interact with Joe as much, but like last season and really going into this season. He's also a very quiet guy, I would say, at least to the media. People who I know who know him and like hang out with him behind the scenes and play pickup ball with him say that he's like a guy that is going to talk to you night in and night out about basketball. Like he is about like the fundamentals of basketball. But you know, I think what looks different about Joe Mazzulla coming in is that he wants to learn how to teach better coming into this season. So, and I think that's something that's really important. I mean, as a leader, you know, anybody, right? You want to be great at what you do. And so Joe Mazzulla has talked about that, how he felt like he wasn't teaching his fundamentals and what he thought they should do the right way. And so to me, that just shows growth, right? Because you get thrown into a situation, which he did last season, and now you regroup, you have great pieces. I mean, 5-time All-Star, 4-time All-Star, 2-time All-Star, NBA champion. I mean, you have the roster to go and win an NBA title. Now it's up to Joe Mazzulla to take, you know, what he learned last season and even from some of the mistakes that he made last season to turn that around and get this team to banner 18. And I think that's been his big focus, on being a better teacher to these guys.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that is really cool to hear about is that, you know, and you talked about it a little bit in one of your answers earlier about having guys around that have won. You talked about Sam Cassell. You know, there's he sent out that email to Celtic alumni to have them come back around. Paul Pierce actually even talked about this last season when him and KG came through and did their Showtime show, and he talked about how, you know, he remembered being a young Celtic and seeing Bill Russell around and Kuzi and of course Tommy and others. And so, you know, you work a lot with Scal and Eddie, and we've already seen, you know, Paul Pierce back in the building. So, you know, I'm curious to know, because I know they were all at the event the other night. We're recording this on Friday. The gala event was just the night before. And so I'm curious, can you feel that there's like a little bit of that energy that's coming off from those guys as far as getting that winning mentality to help get this current team over that proverbial hump?
Yeah, I do feel like a lot of that mentality from that '08 team continues to trickle down to the roster that, you know, the Celtics have right now. And Wick Grossbeck actually talked about it last night at the gala, and then also at Jrue Holiday's opening presser. And he said that, you know, he hadn't seen an intense practice like that, a first practice, since probably that '08 team. And so everything keeps tying back to it. And I mean, I don't like to look back that often, but it feels like, you know, a lot of the things that '08 team did and how they felt coming into the season is pretty much in alignment with what this roster, how they're feeling and how they look coming into this season. Me and Eddie House were just talking about it the other night, and, you know, he was saying that, you know, when they came in that year, like they knew they were going to win a title. Like it felt like they were going to win a title. And that's what it feels like with this current roster. And again, you know, I think that the addition of Jrue Holiday is really kind of what took it over the top, because there wasn't a lot of moves that were made during the off season. People were still hung up on, you know, Marcus Smart going away and going down to the Grizzlies. You know, people were talking about Grant Williams and losing him and that 3-point shot and his defense, you know, but once they added Jrue Holiday in addition to Kristaps Porzingis, then people felt like, okay, well, now I feel like this team is going all in, and this is the year they should get over the hump.
Well, there's just like so many reasons why this year, like the intensity at camp is probably going to be at an all-time high, right? With these new people coming in, everyone's trying to make a good first impression. You've got a ton of young wings that are competing for that like 9th or 10th spot in the rotation. You got Luke Cornett, who's being thrust into a new role, new expectation with Rob going out. Peyton Pritchard has a chance to finally make his mark in the NBA. The Jays are now the real leaders in the locker room. There's like all these reasons. And then when you add on that the older guys are coming back, and you're probably trying to impress them to some degree, you know, to show out for them. My question is, how how long can you keep Paul Pierce around before before everyone's like, oh, Paul's here again?
Paul's here again. You know what? I have thought about that, from time to time. And I'm just like, not that they're like super old guys, but imagine you're like, 24, 25 years old and like all these old guys keep coming around. But honestly, I think what it is, though, there's an immense respect for that team because they continue to come around, because they continue to drop gems. Like even when last season, when KG did his show, with the guys with Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum, like I think that they really do enjoy that. Like they enjoy that connection to that OA team and, the gem that they have to drop in order to kind of impart on them to move them forward. So I know some people probably look at it and they're just like, oh my gosh, how many times are they going to be shooting around the gym? They're just doing workouts.
Paul's here again. Oh my God.
Paul's here again. Oh my God. Is Eddie shooting again? He's trying to challenge people again.
Paul's like, are we live streaming? Are we live right now? Like,
no, I think they really enjoy it. And that's one thing, like this is my third season. The one thing that I do notice about the Celtics is that, once you're a part of that family and you're a part of that organization, they kind of make it their job to kind of keep everybody on the inside. They do a really great job of bringing the guys back, encouraging them to come back to, speak to the current roster and kind of give them the gems at whatever they have. But yeah, I would say that's a huge thing. And I think the guys really do enjoy it.
I want to switch gears here to a degree for just a moment here. We have a few more minutes with you. You mentioned about kind of the staples of the Celtics, and one of them, sadly this year, this is the last year for Mike Gorman on the mic. And, for Greg and I don't know if you know this, Amina, Mike, he grew up in the same neighborhood in Dorchester as Greg and I. He went to the same high school as us. Shout out to BLS. So Mike has always been a guy that, not just for us, but for almost anyone, that's watched the Celtics over the last 40 to 50 years. He is the voice of the Celtics. There is no other voice of the Celtics. And of course, with Tommy's passing a few years ago and now Mike stepping down after this year, like it's definitely an emotional topic for Greg and I, just because we've always looked up to him from that neighborhood high school perspective. And so I'm curious, over the last couple of years, you've got to spend some time with him, I'm sure in person, but also in the post-game, pre-game shows that y'all have been doing. Do you have any memories or anecdotes that you can share with us that really stick out from Mike Gorman?
I would say one memory that sticks out to me is when I first got here. And of course, everybody told me how amazing Mike Gorman is and how much he means to the Celtics and to the fan base and everything. And I remember the first time I actually met him in person, I was like a little nervous. I'm not going to lie, because it was my first time in this market. When you meet somebody like that has, that legendary status in a sport and in a town, in a city, when it comes to a certain team, you're almost like, oh my gosh, like, is he going to critique my work? Is he going to tell me I'm not like doing that good of a job? But honestly, like whatever, like the best memory for me is him telling me when I first got here just how great I was doing and how much, he felt like I was coming to the table prepared, how I was making sure that I was studying the team, studying the players, making sure that I got their stories accurately. That was something for me, just coming from him was huge, just because like of what he means to this team and this organization. But Mike is just a pro's pro. Like he is just like the coolest guy around. Literally.
I was gonna say, does Mike Gorman have like an aura?
He does. He definitely has an aura. Like when he's actually here in the building, I remember seeing him actually another memory. I saw him one time. I was doing, I think, a Patriots game or something, but he was like randomly here, like taping something, and he comes in with a leather jacket, and I'm just like, this is like the coolest guy ever. Like, I see him in the kitchen just hanging out, like in the office with a leather jacket. I'm just like, he's so cool. Like, he definitely has an aura when he walks into the room, but just a pro's pro, an absolute gem to work with, like the nicest guy you'll ever meet. We always talk about his family, his grandkids. He always asks me about my baby and what we've got going on. So honestly, I'm going to really miss working with Mike. I know it's only been, like I said, going into my third season, but he's truly had an impact on me.
Yeah, he's just an absolute legend. And, like I said, it's one of these things where it's sad, but it's also nice that we're going to get to kind of celebrate his career, throughout the season. So, Amina, we want to get you out of here so you have playtime. I know you got a busy schedule here, but there is one last thing that we want to do here. So when you first came on the show, we put you through the Green with MV Fast Break. So you're also going to be the first person to go through it twice.
Oh boy,
we do. So we're gonna give you a chance here. We're gonna run through 60 seconds of questions here. This is going to be quick hit. Yes, no, this or that, rank that. You've done it before, so you should be a pro. So I shouldn't even be explaining you the rules.
I'm ready.
You know how it goes. But so we're going to put 60 seconds on the clock here. And Greg, we're going to start with you, okay? You ready? In 3, 2, go.
If you were to hit the town with Taylor Swift, the energy would be...
Ooh. Electric.
The Celtics X factor for this season is?
Ooh. Jrue Holiday.
True or false? Bill Belichick will be the Patriots coach next season.
True.
The best moment of the Beyonce Renaissance concert was?
Ooh. Blue Ivy.
Beyonce or T Swift?
Oh, Beyonce. Come on now, y'all.
that was too easy. That was too easy. Present day. Who wins one-on-one? Scal versus Eddie House?
Eddie House.
Describe Derek White's new look in one word.
Different.
Hey, shout out to the Ball Brigade. your current favorite place to eat in Boston?
Ooh, current favorite place. Salty Girl.
Last one.
Last one. Give me one lesson you've learned about being a mom.
Ooh, be extremely patient.
I love it. I love it. You have survived again, and not only survived, you've succeeded in the Green with MV Fast Break. As always, Amina Smith, you are an absolute pleasure to have on here. You are an Emmy Award winner. We appreciate you making time for us. Can you give us a little update of like what your schedule is going to look like? Obviously, with the Patriots and Celtics overlapping here at the beginning of the season.
I'll definitely be doing mostly Celtics, but I'm doing both Celtics and Patriots. So you can catch me on both programs. But if the Celtics and the Patriots are playing on the same day, I'm likely going to be on the Celtics program. And so no matter what happens, I'll be on your screen.
All right. Lock in the NBC Sports Boston. You will find our girl, Amina Smith. We appreciate you as always. Greg, any final thoughts? And then let us know what we're going to hear on the way out.
So last year, Will and I were back in Boston for a couple games. There are a couple times that you guys do those like pre-games on in the garden or whatever. Do we have permission to come say hi?
Oh my God, absolutely. Please come say hi.
we were debating it. We were like, she's working. Like, we don't want to do that.
Say hi. Cool, and then if I can't hear you because I have headphones on, just tell them that you're trying to get to me.
Okay.
Maybe not mid broadcast, but we'll make sure that at the appropriate
commercial break for sure.
Cool. And with that, we're going to play you out with some music from my band down here in Austin, Texas. We are called Black Sheep Optimists, and this one is called Get This High. Peace, everybody.
Peace, y'all.